Welcome back to the Evolution Show. Today I continue to talk about investing and look at what's called Contactless Touch, a new game-changing technology developed by the Swedish company Neonode. This new way to interact with machines and devices is more needed than ever, and I will share why I believe it will disrupt many markets, much the same way the first smartphones did in the early 2000s. For me, Neonode's contactless technology is simply an investment opportunity for the future you don't want to miss. So stay tuned, stay ahead of the curve, and stay electric. This is the Evolution Show. Welcome to the Evolution Show. I'm Johan Landgren. It's really nice to be back in the studio, and if you're new to the show, this is where we talk about smart energy solutions, electric mobility, AI, and of course, inspiration for sustainable living. I hope you like the content, and if you do, give us a thumbs up and consider subscribing. It really helps the show. In a recent episode about investing in disruptive companies, I shared some of my experience, which started when I invested in Tesla almost 10 years ago, and as an early EV adopter, driving a Tesla Model S for almost 7 years now. Today I will continue to share some of my experience as a full-time investor and take a closer look at one of my favorite investments right now, Neonode, a pioneer in contactless tech and a leader in holographic interface solutions. This technology is more needed than ever, and I truly believe it can become a game changer in the way we interact with devices. I will look at how this revolutionary technology opens for new future markets for the company. And by the end of the video, I will give you my take on why I think Neonode is such an attractive investment and where I see the stock price going. So stick around and share what you think in the comments below. But before we get started, here's a quick disclaimer. Everything in this video and on the Evolution Show are my perspectives and ideas and should not be considered a recommendation to sell, buy or hold any investment. Everyone's financial situation is unique and I'm not a certified financial advisor. I may or may not hold shares in the companies I analyze. Alright, before we get into the exciting world of contactless technology, here's a brief summary of Neonode as a company. Neonode was founded in 2001 and developed one of the first smartphones in the world. In fact, already in 2004, Neonode launched the N1M mobile phone that is the predator to what we today call a smartphone. It had a touch display using IR lasers and also had features like the swipe tech that Apple did not have until its iPhone 1 that was announced in 2007 by Steve Jobs. After this, Neonode developed its tech to focus on technology for e-reader manufacturers, printer manufacturers, and automotive Tier 1 suppliers. Today, the company also sells customized engineering solutions for the military, avionics, and special industrialized applications that benefit from Neonode's touch and gesture sensing technology, which are really useful in tough environments where regular touch solutions are insufficient. Until today, the main business for Neonode has been to offer licensing for these technologies, in particular optical sensing technologies. And here we come to what really made me interested in Neonode as an investment. The new so-called contactless touch Neonode has developed is just as inspiring as its pioneering smartphone that came out 2004. Neonode has developed two different contactless interface technologies based on what they called C-Force. Neonode's so-called C-Force optical sensing technology can sense any type of object, determine its size, its pressure on a surface, or its depth in 3 dimensions. It can also determine its velocity and proximity to any type of surface. First, we have what Neonode calls the parallel plane touch, which basically is 1 or 2 touch sensor modules that are mounted in front of the display. With one touch module installed, you can interact with an instrument panel, such as in an elevator or from a restaurant menu on a screen, and make your choices by simply holding a finger a couple of centimeters in front of the instrument panel or screen. The Neonode touch sensor module will detect your finger motion with its light-based laser sensor by tracing and identifying it or other objects reflected with infrared light. This means that even if you're wearing gloves, like if you're a doctor or chemist for example, you can interact with the screen without physically touching it. This decreases the risk of contamination and spread of particles in clinical environments. Now, if another sensor module is added, it means that you add another layer, making it possible not only to make choices from the one sensing field. You can also interact much like with a touchscreen on a smart device, using gestures in the air with your fingers, and zoom in or out and potentially move objects around on a projected image without physically touching it. Installing two sensor modules is not necessary in, for example, an elevator or for an ATM, and obviously costs more, but for various applications I see huge potential for this, which I will come back to later. So where are Neonode's contactless touch technology used today? I mentioned elevators and I'll come back to them soon, but the market is just waking up to realize the many benefits of using this technology. And one very recent example of this is Singapore Changi Airport, one of the largest and most popular airports in the world. And they recently took the decision to retrofit and install self-check-in and bag drop kiosks. In collaboration with Singapore-based Arctan Analytics, travelers can now simply point their fingers to the screen without touching it physically, thanks to Neonode's touch sensor modules, which are easily installed. And here you can see them being installed just above the screen. Now let's take a look at elevators and move on to the second contactless tech Neonode is enabling with its touchless sensor modules: holographic interfaces. In June earlier this summer, Neonode announced that Chinese-based Anhui eSpeed technology, or eSpeed, are going to upgrade thousands of elevators in China with holographic button panels using Neonode's holographic interface. And only days later, another Chinese-based company, Yisar Electronics Technology in Shanghai, was selected by Neonode to use its holographic interfaces for its installation of thousands of holographic elevator panels that is being installed now and until the end of this year. Neonode's holographic interface may also be used by Yisar for its kiosk and gaming applications, which is a huge market. The holographic projection plate can be installed either directly under the elevator control panel, like this, or be integrated into the wall, depending on the space or requirements of the customer. But you can also make the choice of only installing a touch sensor module and placing it above the elevator control panel, similarly like we saw in the Shanghai airport when they installed them for the self-check-in kiosks. Here we can see how the holographic interface works together with Neonode's touch sensor module. An image is projected onto a projection plate, and connected to the projection plate we have Neonode's touch sensor module. This enables a contactless touch or gestures a couple of centimeters above from the projection plate. In other words, you can make a number of choices going to different floors, for example, in an elevator, without physically touching the buttons. The physical buttons will still be there, but you can have a second choice of using the holographic interface instead. And this, of course, is a huge benefit, because by not touching surfaces, we can avoid to spread viruses. The same kind of holographic interface can also be applied when ordering from a restaurant, for example. With Neonode's touchless sensor modules, you can just use gestures or touch in the air and make your choices without physically touching the buttons. And here again, this is a huge benefit when we're living in a pandemic like now, and of course for the future. When you start to think about the many benefits of using this technology and the many different applications it opens for, you realize that the market for this is huge. And one example of this is a press release that came out in August that describes the demand and interest for this technology. In the press release, Neonode announced that the company entered into a distributor agreement with Highline Computer Components to promote and sell Neonode sensor modules technology to European customers in the medical, interactive kiosks, and industrial markets. In the press release, we can also read that Neonode is working with large global OEM and engineering partners for integration of Neonode's contactless touch technology into retail store self-checkout kiosks. And as I mentioned before, Singapore Changi Airport, one of the biggest airports in the world, is already installing Neonode's touchless sensor modules. And I expect that the market for self-checkout kiosks will expand in the next couple of years. Aside from elevators and the Changi Airport, Neonode's contactless technology is also being installed for very customized solutions, like in the military, avionics, and in certain industrial settings. If you think about it, it's really a perfect solution for this. In rough terrain and rough environments, using contactless technology is a real benefit. At the moment, this is a niche market for Neonode and a small revenue stream. But if you think about other aspects where this contactless technology can be used, I see huge potential. Think about all the medical devices that use a touch control today. Or when you're walking into a hospital and want to check in, you can use a contactless screen instead. This has huge benefits from avoiding contamination and the spread of viruses. For me, it's really a no-brainer to use contactless technology in medical environments, and I think it's just a matter of time until we see the first hospital or the first country starting to use this on a broader scale. Neonode is also working on a new machine learning software for the auto and aviation industry called remote sensing or multisensing for driver and in-cabin monitoring. The multisensing software is based on Neonode's machine learning algorithm and does not require any energy-demanding or powerful CPU or GPU, and can do a lot of different tasks and covers everything from improved security like preventing accidents related to drowsiness, for example, to driver identification, driver assistance comfort, and personalization, and is ready to work with all levels of autonomous driving. For more on the remote sensing segment of Neonode's business, I highly recommend a recent presentation by Neonode's CEO, Urban Forssell. I'll provide a link to the presentation below. I look forward to learn more about the multisensing platform, and I see great potential for its use in machine learning and driver behavior to train the neural net that will be the basis for full level 5 driving and further AI development. Okay, so here's my take on Neonode as an investment. I mentioned in the beginning that today Neonode's main revenue stream comes from selling licenses in the form of e-readers, printers, and for auto tier 1s, which are using Neonode's optical sensors. But where I see the future going for Neonode is when it comes to contactless touch, as well as software for machine learning. And I think the market is just waking up to realize how the contactless technology being available now by Neonode can be used. And if we start by looking at the current market, Neonode's touchless sensor modules are already being installed in elevators, in one of the biggest airports in the world, and in different customized settings, like in military applications. This technology can be used for ATMs, in different kind of airplanes, and as I mentioned, a huge market in all kind of medical devices and in clinical environments. And if we look at this in a more general aspect, all types of self-check-in devices and touchscreens could potentially be replaced by the contactless technology that Neonode is developing. Now, where do I see Neonode going in terms of stock price? Well, Neonode, that is listed on Nasdaq New York, has made a gain of over 400% year to date. But I believe this is just the beginning. In fact, I believe that Neonode has a potential of a 10x gain in only 2 to 3 years. Because bear in mind, the market is now ready for contactless technology, and Neonode is a world leader in this market. And with an exponential increase in demand of contactless technology in the next couple of years, many more people, including investors, will discover Neonode. If we take a closer look at Neonode's stock price year to date, we can see that back in late August, the stock price reached $12.5 following a number of press releases, including the orders for Neonode's touch sensor modules that will be installed for thousands of elevators in China, as well as the installation of the contactless tech in Changi Airport in Singapore. The share price at the moment is very news dependent, and we can see that the share price has retreated, and since about mid-September the share price has been hovering around $7.8 like now. This has not worried me at all, because there has been few news from the company during this time, and this has moved away many short-term shareholders to other stocks. But I expect to see new orders for elevator installers, or new airports or restaurant franchises, or even medical providers. And following this, I also expect new highs for the stock price when more and more people realize the benefits of Neonode's contactless technology. I hope you liked this episode. Tell us what you think in the comments below. Where do you see this contactless technology going? Where are the biggest challenges and opportunities for its use? And we always appreciate your feedback. Was it good or bad? And if you want to support the show, consider subscribing. And don't forget, smash that thumbs up button. It really helps the show. In the next episode, I'll take a look at another amazing company and technology for the solar energy market. Solar inverters developed by the world-leading company in this segment, SolarEdge. This is also one of my favorite investments and biggest positions right now. And there are many more exciting episodes coming up here on the Evolution Show, like an update on Enride, the company I invested in 2 years ago and that is developing a fully electric heavy truck that doesn't even have a cabin. So stay tuned, stay ahead of the curve, and stay electric. I hope to see you next week.